Hello viewers, welcome to EduTube. In this lesson, we are going to learn approximation of decimal numbers. Approximation of decimal numbers. Now, before we begin with this lesson particularly, it is important to understand the fundamental principle of approximation. So to approximate numbers, whether it is whole number or it is decimal number or it is significant figure, if the nearest number to the number we are rounding off is between 0 to 4, we round it down to nothing. And if the nearest number to the number we are rounding off is between 5 to 9, then we round them up to 1, meaning that the digit will give out what? 1. And if it's between 0 to 4, the digit will give out what? Nothing. Now, to put that into use, we also need to understand for this lesson particularly that we can approximate or round up decimal numbers in various ways. So we can round up decimal numbers using whole numbers to the nearest whole numbers, and we can also round up decimal numbers to the nearest tenth, hundredth, thousandth, and so on. We can also round up decimal numbers to numbers of decimal place by saying either 1 decimal place value or 2 decimal place values or even 3 decimal place value. Now let's tackle our first example to practically understand what I'm saying. So our first example says approximate 29.62 to the nearest whole numbers, So basically I'm going to write out the number 29.62. Now since it says to the nearest whole number, so I will identify my whole number. My whole number is 29 here, and it says I shall approximate the decimal figure to the nearest whole number. That means the decimal number closest to my whole number is going to be put into consideration. So considering the nearest decimal number to my whole number, which is 6, so I'm going to find whether it is between 5 and 9 or it is between 0 and 4. Certainly it is between 5 and 9, which is 6. So that means it's going to be rounded up by giving out 1 to the whole number. So this 6 will give out what? 1 to the whole number. So the 1 will be added to this 9, and then this 9 will become 10. So instead of writing 10, I'll write 0 and then still give the 1 to this 2. So the 1 carried up to this 2 will be added together, and then it will become what? 3. And then the rest of the numbers before the whole number will be evaluated to nothing, or basically 0. So that means my answer is 30. So that is to the nearest whole numbers. Then example 2 says correct 14.762 to the nearest tenth, hundredth. So more like to the nearest 10, 100, and 1000, which is also a place value. So first one, 14.762 to the nearest tenth. So I just need to identify the place value, the 10th place value in the decimal figure. So this is unit, then after the point, the next number is 10th. The next number is 10th, and then the next number is 100th. But that's not our focus for this first one. So since it said to the nearest 10th, so this is my 10th place value. And then the nearest number to my 10th place value is what? 6. So I'm going to consider whether my 6 is between 0 to 4 or is between 5 and 9. And certainly it is between 5 and 9 because it is 6. So meaning that this 6 will give out 1 to this 7. And then the 1 will be added to this 7. So 1 plus 7, that will give me what? 8. So I'm going to put my point and write the 4 and write the 1. So the rest of the number after my 10th place value will be evaluated to nothing or to 0. So my answer, my approximation is 14.8. So to the nearest 10th. Then the next one, to the nearest 14.762, again to the nearest 100th. So I'm going to identify my 100th place value. Before the point, I have unit. After the point, I have 10th. And then after 10th, I have 100th. So this is my 100th. And then the nearest place value to my 100th is this 2, which is thousandth. So these 2, I will find out, consider whether it is between 0 to 4, which will give out nothing, or it's between 5 to 9, which will give out what? 1. So it's between 0 to 4, certainly, which is this. This 2 is between 0 to 4, certainly. So it's giving out nothing to 6. And then the number after the 100th place value will be evaluated to nothing. So my answer will be all the numbers that comes before the 10th place value. So that is 14.76. So to the nearest 100th. Now, the third example, or number 3 example, says round off 19.951 to 1 decimal place. This time around we are using 1 decimal place, so to 1 decimal place, which equally the same thing as tenth, because 1 decimal place means the first decimal number. So I'm going to write 19.951. so this is my 1 decimal place, or my first decimal place, which is equally the same thing as tenth. So my 1 decimal place, so the nearest number to my 1 decimal place is this 5. So I will consider whether the 5 is between 0 to 5, is between 5 to 9, of course 5 to 9. So it's going to give out 1 to the 9, and then if the 1 is added to this 9, the 9 will become 10. So instead of writing 10, I'll write 0 and carry 1 to the next number. So we also have 9 here. If I add the 9 to this one, it will also give me 10. So I'll write a 0 and carry 1 to the next number. Then if I add the 1 and 1 together, I will have 2. So then I have point. So the numbers after my place value, my 1 decimal place value, will be evaluated to nothing. So my answer is 20.0, or just 20. So then the fourth example says approximate 15.222 to 2 decimal place value. 2 decimal place value. So 2 decimal place value. That means we are considering 2 decimal place value. So 15.22. So 2. So 2 decimal place value means 1, 2. So these are the 2 decimal place value. So that means to the nearest 2 decimal place value. So the nearest number to the 2 decimal place value is this 2. So I'm going to consider whether this 2 is between 0 to 4 according to the fundamental principle of approximation, or is between 5 to 9. Certainly it is between 0 to 4. That means it's giving out nothing. So that means I'll write all the numbers that comes before the 2 decimal place value, including the 2 itself. So my answer will be 15.22 to 2 decimal place value. So that is that about approximation of decimal numbers. If you are new to this channel, please kindly click on the subscription button below this video to get notified of my academic lessons like this. And if you are a returning subscriber, we say a big thank you for your love and support always. I will see you in the next lesson.